Hi, everyone. This is Mike Katzman. I'm just going to do a quick sound check before we begin the presentation for today. If you're able to hear me, if you're able to see the screen, let me know. Give me a quick yes in the chat function. Also, feel free to say hello. Feel free to provide your name, which part of the exam you were specifically unsuccessful on, if you'd like. This is a webinar for experienced writers. And the purpose of this specific session is to really help you understand your results. We're going to be doing 3 sessions like this. This is the first part of the first session. Sorry, this is the first part of all 3 sessions. And we're going to be covering a lot of different types of content over the next 3 sessions. The purpose of us running these webinars is really just to make sure that we bring things back into perspective and to really remind you that, one specific attempt in the grand scheme of your life is not a critical problem to have. You will be able to bounce back from this. And if you are not successful for any reason, on these exams, it's chances are you're doing something wrong from a technical perspective, and there's probably something that's going horribly wrong from the way that you're preparing or setting up your answers. I'm noticing that there's some people right now that are struggling to hear me. If you, for some reason, if you're unable to hear, please let me know. I'm just going to write a quick message here. If you're unable to hear me all of a sudden, please feel free, please refresh your screens and you'll come right back into this specific webinar, okay? Is everyone else able to hear me? I can see that we've already got a pretty significant discussion going within the live chat, which is great. But I just want to make sure that people are able to hear me. I know one person expressed that they're not able to hear me. If you can hear me, please give me a quick yes in the chat. Okay, wonderful. So it looks like it's isolated. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give it approximately 2 more minutes. I'm noticing that people are joining the room very frequently here. It seems to be slowing down a little bit, which is great, but we're still a little bit below where we should be. So I'm gonna have to start in about 1 minute. So in the meanwhile, feel free to say hello. I know that this kind of feels like Judgment Day for a lot of people. Does anyone know a good joke that can brighten up the mood a little bit? If you're comfortable saying a joke through the live chat, please feel free to jot it down now, just to kind of get things going, and to take people's minds off the results. So I'm already getting comments. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give it an extra 30 more seconds, and we'll be starting. Noticing a lot of comments about different levels and people being unsuccessful on certain parts of the exam. So I'm getting lots of questions here. For example, anyone doing the appeal or PAR? For something like this, let me suggest a method for you here on how to determine whether you should be getting an appeal or not. That's sort of going to be the point of my webinar today. I really want to save you money. I really want to make sure that you understand what it means to appeal, because most people don't quite understand. They see it as a glimmer of hope. People see the appeals and the PARs as, you know what, this is a chance. And I have to tell you, the chance of you winning an appeal is close to winning the lottery. So, in my opinion, only in very extreme cases should you appeal. And I will often tell you when I think, and I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean by this. Okay, so let's get rolling. Welcome to the 2017 September CFE for Experienced Writers webinar. This is the first part of 3 parts. We're going to be doing a number of different webinars like this just to explain the results a little bit, to also kind of walk you through what you need to do going forward. And we can talk about strategies together. This is also a really helpful medium for meeting other people that may have gone through the same process with you. And you know what? If you're looking for a study partner for next year, there's absolutely no better way than to meet people within this specific chat room, because there's probably lots and lots of people that are, that will be in the same boat. So if you're looking to make a new friend, a new contact, a new connection, this life is all dependent on who you know, in my opinion, and the context that you meet. So this is a great way to meet people. Okay, so this is me. I'm your session leader for today. My name is Mike Katzelman. I'm a CPA. I came from the CA route. I'm also a licensed public accountant in Ontario. I am the course director at Prep Formula, and in the past, I have been a CPA marker with CPA Canada on the day 2 equivalent case on the CFE, and at that time, it was called the UFE. I also work with students on a one-to-one basis as a prep trainer, basically as a mentor and as a marker within the Prep Formula program. In the past, I've been involved with York University's Atkinson program and with my old firm at E&Y. So why Prep Formula? We provide a supplementary personalized training program for students going through CPA PEP. And we pair students with CPA markers on a one-to-one basis. We're certified as a designated post-secondary educational institution by the Ministry of Employment and Social Development in Canada. And we issue T2202A tax receipts for tax credits for all course fees paid. The reason why you should listen to what we're about to present here, and this is the first of the series, is in 2014, which is the last year that we were able to collect pass rate data prior to the amalgamation. We had an 89% pass rate for students using our program. And as of October 2015 onward, and 2016, Prep Formula is the largest and most trusted CPA prep program in Canada based on site traffic. So again, welcome to this webinar. This is the first of 3 parts. I just wanted to start off with a quick disclaimer. The interpretations below are my own opinion, and all rights are reserved. This is not legal advice. This is not accounting advice. The information is provided for illustrative and educational purposes, and Prep Formula is not affiliated or related to CPA Canada, CPA Ontario, and other bodies. The reason why I have to start off with a disclaimer like this is I put together a lot of data, which I'm going to show you now, based on my own opinion, and this is all based on the public. This is generally based on public information available online, but I tend to put it together and really simplify things down for people. And as part of doing that, I sometimes simplify it to a level which might take things a little bit out of context, just to explain a concept to people. So because of that, I have to start off with a disclaimer. So why don't we start with a quick introduction? I'm going to walk you through the 3 parts. So today's session will focus on part 1 of 3. I'm going to introduce you to CFE day 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to explain your results and provide you with some CFE data which you do not have. This will include stuff on projected pass rates, etc. How many people passed within each region? Has that changed or not, etc. What should your 2017 CFE study plan be? Whether you are an experienced writer, and I know that there's people in this room that are writing the exam for the first time. If you are just starting off with the process, this is going to help you a lot. And we'll kind of wrap up the discussion by talking about weaknesses and just a quick walkthrough of the program, the Prep Formula program. Now, what you'll notice is by going to our website, I just set up another webinar for part 2 of 3. And this is going to be done by Towser Dalal, who is a CPA as well. He is a CA, MBA, and a CFE consultant who works for Prep Formula. And Towser has worked with and personally helped over 1,000 people pass their professional accounting exams. And he's going to talk about Board of Evaluators comments, debriefing tips for the 2017 exam, and key focus areas that you should be focusing on. This is, again, going to be a complimentary webinar. And then part 3 of 3, what we're going to do is look at a debrief of a case to get you started on case writing. So part 3 of 3 will focus on how to move forward from here with a live case. I know that a lot of you are probably not even thinking about the 2017 exam, given that you have basically 10 months at this point. But I promise you that this is going to creep up faster than you think. So my suggestion is, let's just get this on the road. Help me by attending the next 2 parts. Let's continue this. Let's continue working together through these kind of webinars. I'm happy to put these on if people are attending and participating in the comments. Okay. So this part will cover, here's going to be the agenda for today: introduction, 2016 CFE results. We're going to talk about day 1, now what, day 2 and 3, capstone 2 stuff, study tips, CFE mistakes, etc., study plan, coaching, and some conclusion and a question and answer period at the end of this, because a lot of people probably have a lot of questions about what their results mean and where do they go from here. So this is the slide that you probably want to see the most. Now, what you'll find is this is the results from the 2016 September CFE. I know that some of this information is not quite public. I had to put together a lot of the information. This is still all based on public information, and you can actually just work this out backwards. But basically, if you look at the Ontario writers, there was about 3 times more people who passed in Ontario compared to May, right? Where in Quebec, there was 5 times more people that passed the exam. So this to me was a very interesting part of the numbers. You always want to think to yourself, is it just that the demographic in Quebec different? So is it primarily made up of firms that in May specifically did not have any of their candidates right? Is it something about their program that did not allow it? It's really difficult to figure out a clear and kind of complete answer to it. What I do find, what's interesting here is a Western School of Business. So for any of the candidates in this room right now, is there anyone from Western Canada here? I know that there's already quite a few as part of the live chat. If there's anyone from Western Canada, you'll notice that the number of successful writers was very consistent along with Ontario. So there was also 3 times more candidates who passed. And this is very, very, very consistent. And last but not least, Atlantic was very interesting for me, because if you notice, Atlantic had 4 times more people who passed. And this was something that I found to be really fascinating. So really, the outlier here to me was Quebec. And I'm not quite sure exactly what happened to why, not enough writers wrote maybe in May. And why this happened. But from my own experience as a CPA marker, there are multiple teams within the marking center, and typically people who mark in French are not the same people who mark in English. So Ontario, Western School of Business, and Atlantic are all marked by the same people, and then Quebec is marked by a completely different subset of people. Okay, so just to tell you. All right. So a lot of people have asked me this question. What was the pass rate? Can you estimate? And I've considered a couple of factors, and I'm comfortable releasing my own personal opinion on this. Now, you saw the disclaimer towards the beginning of this webinar. In my opinion, based on public information, the pass rate was about 60%. And if you had watched my previous webinar on this in May, at that time, I thought the estimate was about 50% in May 2016. So based on everything that I saw, more people passed on a percentage basis in September compared to May. And this is really based on an influx of May CFE writers. So you had much stronger candidates, considering that there were a reasonable amount, a reasonable amount of people who were unsuccessful in May that then attempted to rewrite in September, right? So imagine that all these people had a very clear understanding of what they were supposed to do, and they wrote in September. So it does definitely make sense that there would be more candidates that were successful. Next, I also looked at Capstone 2 writers. How many people were originally registered for Capstone 2? How many of those, compared to the total CFE results, appeared in the 4 regions? And that's how I arrived approximately at about a 60% pass rate. I don't want to really get too specific about whether it's 58, 62. To me, that's completely irrelevant. All you really need to know is this exam is achievable. So people do pass this. Thousands of people pass this exam. So can you. If you're doing something wrong, if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, chances are there's probably something very minor, and the difference often between passing and failing is very small. You're all smart at this level, but consider this, that CPA Canada, the institute, has to decide who to pass and who to fail. And sometimes the difference between passing and failing can be so narrow and so small. Okay, so really don't take it personally. Okay, so I failed day one. What do I do? So many of you who failed day one here, and I've seen this in the live chat so far. When people fail day one, they get this one word that says fail. Now, a lot of people have asked me, do you think it's fair? Or do you think that CPA Canada should offer more information about day one? My own personal opinion is I can't comment on whether I think it's fair or not, but no, there's no additional information that I can add here. So what you should be doing now is focusing on relearning the case, and specifically those of you that have rewritten PRI, which probably accounts for most of you, except for the odd person maybe that has failed CFE day one twice, which statistically speaking is pretty low, but I know that it happens. In that case, you should be focusing on relearning PRI twice. And the official prep formula pass rate so far for day one was higher than 95% internally, just with one webinar offered. So most of our resources for day one consisted of a webinar that cost $75. That's all it really was. And the candidates that really understood the strategic approaches and layouts should have passed and did exceptionally well on the day one. So really, you should practice, in my opinion. If you did fail day one, it's not as easy as just going back and saying, okay, I'm going to only focus on CFE day one. That's not the right approach. Okay, there are parts to this exam. That will be technical in nature. Yes, there's a lot of information about emphasis on communication skills, on the situational analysis on day one. So a lot of other things that come into play, but there's still a pretty significant technical portion. You may be required to do an accounting adjustment. You may be required to build a quant. It's really helpful. It's really helpful to really, it's really helpful to continue practicing CFE day 2 and day 3 cases as a way to bridge the gap. Why? Well, the unfair part is you only really have 3 practice cases for CFE day 1, and there won't really be any additional resources created for you. So you can't just spend 9 or 10 months and then not do anything, right? I mean, that would just be kind of a waste of your time, and also would probably cause your stress levels to rise. Does anyone else feel like this? Uh, in my opinion, if you sit around and if you only do the CFE Day 1 webinar again right before the exam, your stress level is going to be so high because you're going to constantly ask yourself, am I doing enough am I doing enough work? And you're writing against other people again, right? That are studying and practicing CFE Day 2 and Day 3 cases. So they become incredibly strong. They become incredibly strong case writers in general. So my suggestion, if you fail Day 1 but pass Day 2 and 3, you should really focus on, of course, relearning the PRI case. Okay, you should really focus on relearning the PRI case. You definitely have to do that. But in addition to doing that, continue to practice other cases. Okay, so really the guide to passing is to continue along and to really kind of move it forward. I'm going to just address a quick kind of point here. So this is such an interesting point, and I want to give you my own feedback. So Mary asks, but I felt the Day 1 exam was tricky with little or no quants, or was I really off on this one? And a few other people were saying, yeah, it wasn't very clear with what you're supposed to do. What you all really mean, okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the CFE Day 1 case that appeared on the 2016 September CFE looked nothing like the 3 practice cases that you've done in the past. That's why you're saying that it was tricky and really off. It's not that it was it's not that it was an off case or that it was any more difficult. What you're actually saying is that it looked nothing like the practice cases, which is misleading considering that the May exam, the case looked very similar to the second practice case. And I totally get that. But my point to you is you cannot expect to have the same case appear all the time. They can't make it really easy. And what's even more confusing, okay, so while I'm on this point, what's even more confusing, if you read, you're probably all thinking, wow, how did I miss this? How did I do so wrong? Here's how. If you read the CFE report from May, what they will say is a lot of students did not perform very well on the quants. Okay, if you read the Board of Evaluators commentary, by the way, I really hope that you all watch part 2 of 3 because this is exactly what we're going to talk about. If you read the board comments, okay, the board comments will be very clear and will say something like, the CFE Day 1 candidates did not perform well on the quantitative portion, but did exceptionally well on the situational analysis. Okay, so what they basically said, people did very, very well in May on qualitative, but did terribly on the quant, which is why they failed in May on the CFE Day 1 portion. This time around, you were all relying on that information. You were all expecting that to be the exact same method, right? So you were, again, focusing on a very, strong quant because you know what? In May, they told you that was the weakness of candidates at that time. But my point to you is you can't do that. You can't just expect that that's going to be the same going forward. Each time that the exam is written, the exam is different, right? Like it's going to be a different case each and every time. And I found for September, and bang, there we go. That's exactly what I was going to say. Thank you, Brian. So Brian writes, the situational analysis was weird for September and didn't really have any ratios. So the situational analysis is, in my opinion, what caused you to fail the CFE Day 1 case instead of the quant. So a lot of people were stuck in this like quant hunting mode. Let me find the numbers, let me calculate something because that's what the practice cases look like. But then this exam focused entirely on the situational analysis. Now, if you go back and redo the webinar that I ran specifically on CFE Day 1, we talked a lot about the situational analysis and the specific format that you were supposed to, focus on to identify every single issue, to line it up perfectly. And the people that have done that had a much more likely chance of passing. Okay, but I just wanted to explain this because I think it's really, really critical. So this is basically what I just said. There's an inverse relationship between your qualitative and your quantitative. when you read the comments and then try to adjust and add more numbers, your qualitative suffers, right? Your situational analysis suffers. When you add more into the situational analysis, everything else suffers. So the problem is you always want to kind of keep a balanced approach in between the quant and the qual. So like I said, this time in September, things were really different. The situational analysis was king. And if you scored well on that, then you would have passed the CFE day one. Okay. I hope that that's clear. Okay. So I failed days 2 and 3. Now what? So those of you that were unsuccessful on both maybe day 1 or just days 2 and 3, here's what I want you to listen to. Okay. I'm going to show a picture of this. Okay. I'm going to show a picture of Super Mario Bros. Or Mario. Okay. The reason why I picked this interesting picture is, in fact, it has 4 levels. If you notice, kind of on the left side of this screen, you'll see that there's the first jump, and then he makes a couple of extra jumps, and then he goes into the next level, right? And then you pass. I often like to explain the levels. The reason why someone has been unsuccessful using the concept of Mario, because you'll find that this is going to be really something that you'll understand very, very well. Okay. Does anyone else recognize this game? Or am I just really old? Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Please don't answer that question. Okay. So here's kind of where I'm going with this. What I'd like to kind of first say is there are really 4 levels which you have to pass. And here is, if you got your result sheet and you were unsuccessful on levels 2 and 3, on days 2 and 3, you're probably looking at this. And trying to figure out your own results. So what a lot of people assume is that if you fail on level 3 and level 1, so for example, level 1 is showing a fail, level 3 is showing a fail as well. They automatically assume that they messed up only on day 2. Why? Because it only talks about the depth portion. And for some reason, people really like to talk about levels 2, 3, and 4, but don't quite understand or have any idea what sufficiency means. Does that sound like you? Are you, how many people here failed on level 1? And more importantly, how many people feel like level 1 is not as important as levels 2, 3, and 4? What are your, what's your feedback here? What do you think is the most important level as part of these 4 levels? Okay. Okay, so a lot of people are also getting these deciles, right? So we're talking about these deciles. Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. So I'm getting lots of people that are saying, yes, they are all important. I passed level 1, but then failed level 3, failed level 1, 3, and passed 2 and 4. I can't interpret the results to figure out. I think level 1 is the most important. In most cases, in my opinion, level 1 is the most important, right? And again, if we were to go back here for a second, if you mess up the first jump, all the other jumps won't work, right? So this is why I like to use this kind of very simple example of understanding how all this works. So in other words, if you have not identified and spoken about a sufficient number of topics across all the assessment opportunities, basically, have you attempted everything and scored a little bit better than average on all topics? If you had not done this, then you failed on level 1. Levels 2, 3, and 4 are only relevant once you pass level 1. It is the easiest to fail on level 1 compared to levels 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4 look for very specific things. They look for, have you, say, achieved depth? And have you achieved depth again, right? In FR or MA, and then your role. But these 2 just look for a sufficient number of times that you've hit competent on, right? So here we're looking for compliance with a specific number of direct hits based on compliance. Here we're analyzing all of your results, everything, right? So this is a way, way, way more difficult level for you to score well on. And then level 4 to me is basically another compliance type of level where you need to score a minimum number. So just to explain your results, if you fail on level 1, it means that you have not attempted all issues and scored probably a little bit worse on average if you were to line up all of the assessment opportunities. If you failed on levels 2 and 3, chances are, they may have been looking for you to hit 3 competent marks in financial reporting, for example, or assurance, if that's your role, or finance, etc. Okay, if you were to score that, then they were looking for, say, out of the 6 assessment opportunities, score a competent at least 3 times. That's what that means, right? Like, really, that's what levels 2 and 3. Like, if you fail on those, that's really what they mean. And level 4, where the other competencies demonstrated within enough breadth, have you scored at least a C once in the other areas. I'm getting an interesting question that first of all, there's one question here. Is there anyone that has failed all 3 days? Yes, I've heard from quite a few. There's someone that's saying, I only failed at level 3. All I do is audit at work, so I just don't get it. We just had to do ramp, right? And it depends. Even if you do ramp, even if you apply the format perfectly, sometimes you don't have enough depth as part of your own answer. So for something like this, you may have attempted everything, but for some reason you were always stuck at the RC level. So for some reason you weren't quite necessarily getting to where you were supposed to be. And that's something to really kind of think about there. Okay. Okay, so this is a very, very controversial slide here. So do I appeal? Do I request the PAR? Many of you want closure. I get it. Many of you want to get some answers. You demand answers at this point, right? Like, you are angry. I get it. My suggestion, though, is please understand the chances of winning. So, you can make your own decision on whether you want to request an appeal or get a PAR. But from my perspective, like, I have no incentive whatsoever. I have no incentive whatsoever to direct you to get a PAR, to push you into the direction of an appeal, right? This is strictly a great revenue source and a profit maximization technique, in my opinion, for CPA Canada. I'm not associated with CPA Canada, so I have no incentive whatsoever to push you into one direction or another. But let's kind of talk about, the concept of sufficiency, your overall decile, and whether, you should do it or not. So let's say I scored second decile on sufficiency grouping. Do I appeal? In my opinion, no. In my own experience, I have seen a lot of people appeal. I have seen a lot of people request appeals. In my professional career, I have seen one successful appeal. One. And this happened because the results were a complete anomaly, in my opinion. This person had a first decile ranking on their sufficiency grouping. Okay. And at that time, we had a conversation, we talked, and they decided to appeal. They won the appeal. Okay. I have seen a lot of people that had second decile, third decile, submit their case for an appeal, and not a single one has ever won the appeal. Okay, so in the case that I have seen, by the way, which is quite rare, if you consider it, the chance of you winning the appeal is less than 1%. So typically it's like 1 out of 1,000 people wins an appeal. Okay, so I have seen people win appeals, but in my opinion, I don't think you should do it because the expected outcome is not great. And for most people, you will just simply, lose out on this. Decile. So a lot of people are kind of saying, what is a, why does it say NA in my results? What is a decile? Decile means that you are very close or not that close. If There we go. Thank you, Matthew. Perfect. So if you passed on level 1 and you failed on one of the other 3 levels, levels 2, 3, and 4, that means that you possibly did not get enough C's in your specific depth area. In most cases, so you actually are not failing based on sufficiency. And most people who fail on sufficiency. About 70 to 80% of people who are unsuccessful because of sufficiency. So what they do is they rank people on how close they were to passing. Decile 1 means you were incredibly close. Decile 10 means you are very, very far. Okay. And you're basically ranked on how close you are to passing or failing from an average perspective. Okay. Do I appeal after failing on level 2 or 3 only? So my answer to you is, and there might be some people here, like this, that passed sufficiency but failed level 2 or 3 only. And I did see someone already ask a question like that. If you have this type of result where your sufficiency is showing as NA, and and then for the other grades, it's showing as, for example, a fail on level 3. In my opinion, there's no chance of winning, because what this means is they've carefully looked at your paper to determine whether you have passed or failed on sufficiency. So if you are really seriously lacking in C's for, say, assurance or finance or whatever your depth area might be, then they have decided to fail you on level 2 and 3. But those papers are reviewed a lot more carefully. Okay, those papers are reviewed a lot more carefully. And if they were to submit it for an appeal, only that specific section would be marked. Whereas the reason why I suggest for people with sufficiency failed to appeal is your entire paper will be remarked instead of just that one subsection. So what they legally have to do at CPA Canada is they will remark your entire paper if you fail on sufficiency and then request an appeal. So your best chances of winning an appeal happen when you failed on sufficiency and you have something like a decile 1. Okay, that is the only case that I recommend for people to request an appeal, because it means that you were extremely close, and chances are they will be remarking the entire case from start to finish, or actually your entire paper from start to finish, and they might find something. You might still fail, but the chance is there. Okay, should I request a par for day 1? No, in my recommendation and my humble opinion, you should just do our webinar for $75, and this $500 fee for a day 1 par. Buy yourself a new suit or whatever you want to spend your $400 on. I don't know how much you spend on suits. I'm just simply throwing it out. Save your money, because it won't really help you pass. It won't really help you understand. Number 5, appeals and pars, like I mentioned, are a great revenue source, right? So understand whether you want to do it or not. And my other suggestion is, I know at this point you're trying to kind of really find answers. You're trying to figure out what you should do, your strategy. My suggestion is, let's move on and let's start studying as soon as possible again. Let's bring you right back up to the level of where you need to be. And really, my suggestion is, let's start writing cases again. Pick yourself up and let's try again. You cannot give up now. You cannot absolutely give up now. Sorry, I'm just going to answer a quick question here. Is decile rating calculated for all 4 levels? And people are answering this question already. Just to tell you, the decile ranking is not calculated on all 4 levels. It's strictly a sufficiency calculation. So just be very, very careful, because I'm seeing people answer each other's questions. And if I see something that I think is not quite right, I'll tell you. Most of the answers so far have been correct, but in this case, yes, it's only on level 1. Okay, so just be careful. Um, I'm getting another question. Will the webinar cover the exact case from the exam from day 1? Yes. So Mary, the webinar is for PRI. Later on, we're going to do it for the next Capstone 1 case sometime in September of 2017, right before the exam, or maybe late August. Okay, so you have the option to use Capstone 2 materials or do something different. My suggestion, don't use Capstone 2 materials. I've heard a lot of feedback from students who are very unhappy with Capstone 1 and 2. The general comments that I hear from people is that it's a complete waste of money. And that's not my opinion. That's just really, I constantly get emails like this where people are saying, why do I have to pay for this? I'm just being asked to do something, some group project, whatever, and I keep passing everything, but then I walk into the exam and fail. So in my opinion, it's not really representative of the exam. So my suggestion is figure something out. Figure out a different strategy. My solution for you, naturally, I think we have the best program in Canada because of the one-on-one focus and our live teaching, live webinars, our cases that mimic the exam. Consider taking our program instead. I think it's going to be a cheaper and better use of your money. Another question that I get, number one, do I need to take time off again? Okay, I constantly get this question. I know the exam. Do I really need to take time off? In my opinion, yes. Are you all going to be mad at me for me saying this? I guess so. But I will tell you the right thing to do. Please specifically take 2 weeks at a minimum for this exam. Again, you can't really gamble, with your approach. Again, my recommendation is just be very, very careful with your overall approach. So really be careful before you really move forward here. So my suggestion, try to make sure that you use at least 2 weeks off fully before you move forward and before you try something different. Okay. Okay. Now let's kind of talk about, what happens to our students. I am noticing a lot of people in here right now that are our previous students that, have been unsuccessful. So we stand behind every single one of our students. I stand behind every single one of our students. Our pass guarantee is very clear and fair. So we provide ongoing access to our materials until you pass, period. The reason why we're the largest CPA prep program in Canada is because we stand behind our products. So if for some reason you were unsuccessful on any of your parts of the exam, please reach out to us. We will reactivate your materials going forward, and you will have access to 2017 free of charge. Now, note that this does not include one-on-one sessions and mark cases, but you can purchase additional cases if you've used up your previous credits. Okay, if you still have other credits, you can continue to use the previous credits. They do not ever expire. And my suggestion is to get us to prepare a new custom schedule for you, possibly starting even now. Try to do 1 case a week. You also have an option to try working with a different mentor or a different prep trainer. Again, this is free of charge. We would be happy to move you to a different marker. It always doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. And there might be another person that might kind of give you some better advice. So we will do anything possible to help you pass with minimal or any extra out-of-pocket costs. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at the end. And then really what I wanted to say to you is, you've got 2 days before the CFE, next year. Who are you going to call? Who do you trust to pick up the phone? I can tell you that for the next year, starting from now, there's going to be a schedule posted sometime next week for our webinar schedule. We will be offering classes 2 times every single week. And we will have the greatest number of webinars and content available for you throughout this entire term. And I will always make my personal phone number publicly available to anyone who watches any of our webinars. Um, if this is not your first time around, if you're struggling through this, give me a call. Let's have a quick conversation. Let's chat for 10, 20, 30 minutes. Let's talk. And I'm happy to bring you back up to speed. I really want to motivate you to pass. If you don't believe me, try me. Call me after this webinar. I'll pick up the phone personally and you can talk to me. Okay, so let's talk about CFE overview again. Now, obviously, you've all written the CFE at that point. At this point, you all kind of have a really good idea. Now, just to talk about a couple of logistical items. If you were unsuccessful on the CFE day one twice, you will now be required to retake Capstone 1. Unfortunately, you will have to pay again, and you'll have to relearn a new case, okay? But you will not have to take Capstone 2. That's kind of a new thing. And your new exam is now going to be based on a new case that will be arriving as part of Capstone 1 in May 2017. Does that make sense? But anyone else who's rewriting CFE Day 1 will be doing it based on the PRI case. And it's just going to be an extension case, and you'll have one more shot before you have to retake Capstone 1. For anyone doing Day 2, it's going to be the exact same setup. You will continue along with the same role. You will attempt the same, a similar case. It's going to be a brand new case again. And same with CFE Day 3. That's something else that you want to think about. And some of the key dates, please block these in your calendar. You'd be surprised at how fast this is going to come back to you. The key dates here are September 13th to 15th, 2017. And something for you to really block out, make sure you don't have any vacations whatsoever planned for these days. Okay, CFE scoring guide, again, let's focus on these rules, right? So I always want you to focus on level 1, right? Level 1 is, in my opinion, the most important of all levels, because sufficiency really drives the way that you're communicating at all times. Everything else is just the minimum. You have to score a minimum number of points at a specific point. But this is not something that drives success or helps you, achieve success at a specific level. It is strictly a minimum. Whereas something like this, level 1, is an actual comparison to an average, right? Across all of the assessment opportunities, which is why it's so critical. Okay, a few other things. So a lot of people ask me what type of marks are typically available within these assessment opportunities. So how are things marked? Why am I failing? Why am I not quite seeing the results that I'm looking for? I always like to describe marks as buckets of marks or collections of marks. So each individual assessment opportunity has its own set of marks allocated to it. The candidates that are not successful typically produce a response that's not quite balanced. I often get people that might say to me, I'm always aiming for competence with distinction. And my suggestion is be careful, because scoring competence with distinction is still the same number of points. So in other words, if you score with competence or competence with the distinction, it's going to be 4 points. If you score reaching competence, then it's going to be 2 points. Anything below RC is typically a 0. So if you notice, there's no reward whatsoever for you being at that distinction level. In fact, you will just take time off away from something else. Okay, so same for CFE Day 3 as Day 2, but the one distinction that I kind of want you to see here is the way that the Cs are awarded on the CFE Day 2 is there's a little bit more weight provided to a CFE Day 2 case compared to a Day 3 case, if you notice, based on the marking guide. So technically speaking, sometimes people will say to me, well, how is a mark from, say, Day 2 compared to Day 3? The way that it's typically compared is based on the total allocation between the different sections, right? And a Day 2 case is ultimately worth a little bit more compared to a day 3 case? I'm going to answer a quick question here. So I'm getting two people that are kind of saying, Mike, lots of people are telling me to take some time off before jumping back into studying. Same with Deep. Do you think if we practice and we have failed, aren't we repeating our bad habits? So Brian and Deep, my suggestion is to go through an assessment process now to understand what you're doing wrong as part of your case writing approach. Kicking the can down the road does not mean that you somehow solve the issues that you're seeing. In fact, you're just delaying. You just had 2.5 months where you did absolutely nothing but wait for the results. So my gut feeling is, my suggestion for you is jump right back into this and keep it going. And get into the habit of writing one case a week. And doing one case a week, I think, is very manageable. Maybe one case every other week. And it will allow you to maintain the level of interaction with case writing. But before you do this, my suggestion for you is make sure that you spend some time to get a personal assessment done by a professional marker, and who will go through your case writing one line by line to explain what you're doing wrong. So at least you can have the mindset, a clear understanding of why you're scoring the way that you're scoring. It's something for you to think about. Okay. I'm getting a couple of other questions here. So there are 3 to 7 assessment opportunities for each day 3 case. Yes, could be as high as 9. Fiona, are we able to download the slides? Yes, I will explain how to do that at the end of the presentation, which is soon. And then Imran is saying even for day 1 candidates, and yep, I think the day 1 candidates can take a little bit of time off, but it doesn't really change anything. You're simply just kicking the can down the road, right? So you can totally defer. I'm not recommending for you to do anything. I'm simply suggesting something that works for me, that has worked for other candidates that I have worked with. And I find if you don't treat it like a chore, if you don't treat case writing as a chore and just make it a part of your life, that you dedicate every other week to it, I do feel like you will find the process to be a lot easier going forward. Okay, so just to kind of tell you a few other things, this is the RODAC method that we use at Prep Formula. My suggestion is, you don't score a C by simply just providing technical, knowledge. You also need to apply a strategic approach to your case writing abilities. So my suggestion is to kind of go about it doing it this way. Read the case once. Try not to go back. You organize using an outline. Typically, use a computer outline if I'm getting through to you, and if currently you are using a paper approach or some sort of a hybrid approach, or if you don't use paper at all and you just simply scribble on a piece of paper or on the side of your case, try to set up a basic skeleton of your individual case using the information and themes provided from the case in your Word document and your Excel document. Try to practice case writing using a computer outline now, right, while you have ample time. Divide up into different competency areas, so sort which of the individual sentences apply to which competency areas. And this is what I'm going to be covering in part 3 of 3 of these webinars. And also rank by importance, allocate time to each individual area and apply the preferred format to each competency area topic. And last but not least, always conclude by summarizing the big picture, right? Concluding on why something is important to your users. Something for you to really think about here. This is an example of an outline. Many of you have probably seen this, but I just thought that you should see this, and I thought that I should include it. A couple of study tips for proper debriefing. So never rush your debriefing. if you've ever had a chance to write another case or debrief, most people will write another case. My suggestion is do not try to write another case. Go back and debrief properly, reassess your own information. Go through and try to basically determine and figure out what you have to do, and try to use a very useful strategy on kind of going forward. So this is how you should be debriefing. Number one, read the evaluation guide, read the sample solution, and you'll notice that the solution is impossible. If you think it's possible, you're doing something wrong. Try to mark your own paper. Try to get a gut feel for how you would mark yourself under these conditions. So see if you picked up some of the issues, several issues, or all issues. Review what you've missed. Go back into the technical standards, right? So it's totally important as part of a case debrief to also go back into the handbook and to reevaluate certain things. Rewrite portions of your response, or say the entire response, focusing on applying the correct formats, right? Again, this is something that I'm going to cover as part of part 3 of 3 of this webinar, and part 2 of 3. And we're going to talk a lot about proper debriefing in the next webinar, which is on Wednesday. Just explaining how do you debrief, how do you do this, really going forward. And I wanted to also share a couple of top mistakes that CPA candidates make. So many of you know I've been a marker for CPA Canada. I'm a recent marker. This is me. I often like to provide my own picture here. Now, please note that this was done before, I spent 14 hours a day for 15 nights straight as part of my marking contract. So the smile here is maybe not quite, I wasn't that excited coming out of the marking center. But I just wanted to let you know that CPA markers typically are not equal to CPA facilitators. So your facilitators that are doing your Capstone 1 marking and Capstone 2 marking as part of the modules are not the same people that are marking your exam. So I'm specifically a marking center marker as part of the National Marking Center. Okay, so just to tell you, this was a very happy smile before going in on the first day. Okay. So here are, in my opinion, and sorry, actually, some of the people are now saying, did you mark the 2016 CFE? After 2014, the contracts with CPA Canada, where I was deemed an independent consultant, now prohibit anyone who's in the marking center from directly disclosing what type of case they have marked, which is why you'll notice that my marking experience is cut off at the 2014 year. And if you notice very closely, this is the last year that I'm allowed to disclose my marking contracts, and the fact that I was a CPA marker. Okay, so Anthony, I'm just going to leave your question. I did not mark the 2016 CFE because I can't disclose that information even if I did. So, okay. So top 7 CPA, top 7 mistakes conducted by CPA candidates. Number 1, I'm going to say, is a lack of qualitative within a quant. So a lot of people focus all their time on doing a perfect quant, but leave very little room for a qualitative discussion. So spending an inappropriate amount of time between a quant and qualitative, making the responses too wordy or not wordy enough. That seems to be a really kind of common one that I find. Another one is, how many people does this apply to? How many people here like to produce really beautiful Excel files that are, bolded and underlined and perfectly lined up and perfectly capitalized and spelled, and a perfect conclusion everywhere? How many people kind of spend way too much time labeling their Excel files? Typically, from a marker's perspective, my suggestion is not to waste your time on your Excel portion, because the Excel typically is an appendix. Your main marks will come from the memo portion or the Word document and not from the other parts of your response. So if you find yourself that you're not quite, allocating your time appropriately, that's why you probably don't necessarily want to, spend that much time on it. Lack of a proper outline or plan. So those of you that don't write with any kind of a plan, I really hope that you try to adopt the computer outlining method. This is something that we teach a lot within the program. Margin notes are typically not enough. Number 4, no focus on the big picture, right? So if you don't have a conclusion at the bottom of your responses, typically that's what drives a marker to think that you're not quite competent. So my suggestion is always try to conclude and explain your, gut feeling about the future impact or potentially the future direction that the company should be making. Something to really think about, right? So always try to add value to your specific discussion going forward, because it is a critical portion of what you're supposed to do. Sorry, I jumped a little bit. Inappropriate application of formats. So sometimes if people use WIR, for example, which is weakness, implication, and recommendation, sometimes people focus on not doing, say, every part of the format, or they'll selectively decide that one part of the format is more important than another part of the format. Always try to keep things very consistent, because from a marker standpoint, I have to award marks across the entire format and not just an arbitrary application of it. So something to think about there. Number 6, copying and pasting CPA Canada handbook sections. So if you were to copy and paste a handbooks section, try to make sure that you're not spending all your time just copying and pasting, and always try to conclude on the point of the individual handbook section. Don't try to change your font to blend it in. We know, we always know, we always have an idea. And last but not least, always produce an overall conclusion. Provide me with one clear recommendation at the bottom of your case, the bottom of your response, to really, get a good feeling. So something to think about there. Okay, so prep formal study plan, one-on-one coaching, and marking. So this is the plan of attack for 2017. As the largest CPA prep program in Canada based on site traffic, which is public information, we're here to help. So there's lots and lots of information that you'll have access to, and here's a really good way of getting started. My suggestion is to start preparing now, not July, not May, but start preparing now. Make a commitment that this is what you're going to do. Otherwise, it's going to feel like you've given up on the exam. If you want to take a few weeks off now for the holidays, that's totally fine. But I say January 1st, we start rolling, right? We have to go back. You can't just give up on your life dream. It just doesn't work like this. People have families, people have commitments. Let's just get back into the groove and pick yourself back up again, and let's get started, right? In July, we will have an intensive hands-on program, which will be recorded and will be available until the 2017 exam. There's going to be a number of sessions. They're going to be back to back. There's going to be a 4 or 5 day weekend type of a thing, which is going to be really intense. There's also one-on-one coaching that starts now and will take you all the way up until the 2017 exam. Last but not least, to motivate you, because I know that some days you will wake up and say, I don't really feel like doing this. I don't want to think about this. My commitment to you is, I would like for you to attend our webinars. We're going to do, starting January, 1 to 2 webinars per week as part of the program. I would like your commitment to show up, and all I'm asking for is to show up. If you can't make it live, you can replay it at a later point, but show up and give me an hour or 2 of your time every single week, and and let's, you know, casually review information so it doesn't become stale together through a webinar like this. The first thing that I want you to do is, before even doing all of this, sign up to the second part of this, okay? Where we're going to talk about the Board of Evaluators comments. We're going to talk about strategies, and this is going to be run by Towser Dalal. So just to really tell you, you know, let's get started. You don't really want to give up, and you don't really want to, you know, you don't really want to waste your time. So why Prep Formula? Again, we're here to help you read, outline, and write all the cases on the September exam through one-on-one learning while focusing on your unique weaknesses. Students have an option to work with a qualified marker. We provide all learning materials. You can practice using our cases, which are designed to mimic the exams. We provide T2202A tax certificates where you'll receive a partial refund on your taxes. And if you want more information, please check out prepformula.com. As I mentioned, this is our entire program for the 2017 September CFE prep program. Just to kind of advise you that the program for the last year and a half has had, actually for the last 2 years, has had the exact same price point at $797 or 3 payments of $265 for the September CFE program. So $800 versus $1,200 for CFE Prep Plus. We've threatened this for quite a while because of rising costs, but we will be increasing our prices in January 2017. So you have until the end of December to purchase at the price of $797 or $1,197 going forward. Okay. If you have any questions about the course features, if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email address. If you want to look through our materials, if you want to look through our webinars, if you want a sample of cases, if you're not quite a student yet, give me a call. Okay. Send me an email. I will share a lot of our sample information. I'll make it available for you if you want to check it out. If you have any questions, if you want to connect with me, share your results with me. If you want to have a quick call, just to, you know, for me to give you a little bit of guidance on what I think you should do, email me your results and I'd be happy to assist. If you'd like to request this note package that you know, this PDF presentation that I've used so far, if you'd like to request this, please email education@prepformula.com. And a replay link is automatically available for all our webinars and will be automatically sent to you by email as soon as we're done this presentation. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you to all, you know, to all of you that have attended the first part. I do encourage you to go back on the website under Learn and then upcoming webinars, and then register for part 2 of 3 with Towser Dalal, which will be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Again, it's free. It's something that I really need you to watch, because Towser has a tremendous amount of experience, has literally built the E&Y program and ran it for 12 years Canada-wide. And he's going to be talking about his experience, about the Board of Evaluators, basically, who are the people that set up all these exams. He's going to be talking about these requirements of what you need to know to play this game correctly. And that's what we're going to be covering on Wednesday. So I'm going to take a few questions, but I also want to say thank you to all of you that have stayed with me throughout this past hour. I really, really want to say thank you to this. So I'm getting a question. I'm about to hit PEP. Can I save the one-on-one coaching for 2018? And the answer is yes, you can. So we work on a credit system where each individual person is assigned a specific number of credits or one-on-one sessions and mark cases within the program. And you have an option to basically use the credits whenever you need additional assistance. So it's really up to you. Brian, should we request a par for days 2 and 3? My honest answer, my honest opinion is no. I really do not recommend for you to do anything for. I don't recommend a par for days 2 and 3. If you have a first decile, and if you're the small minority of people that have some sort of an anomaly with your answer, with your with your results, send me your results sheet, and I'll tell you if I think you should appeal. But in most cases, I don't recommend the par. Mike, anything specific for day one? Yeah, and a few other people are asking me about day one stuff. So my suggestion is for anyone who's not a current registered student, our official position on this is that you should maintain your case writing skills, and you should be looking at enrolling at the at the CFE prep level, and specifically focusing on some parts of the exam and not really doing a tremendous amount of cases. But I do suggest for you to focus on CFE day 2 and day 3 cases to just maintain your case writing skills. Mary, um, will the course have debriefing for the September 2016 exam? Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. So as part of the intensive review, we will be debriefing every one of the previous CFE questions. So yes, Mary, absolutely. That's actually one of the topics covered as part of the intensive review in July. So that's part of the course. Mike, I bought CPA competency study notes. I read it every day, but no case practice. Do you think I should review it before the exam? My answer is notes won't help anyone. So, in my opinion, it's all about writing and practicing cases. So let me give you a really good example. Are you going to be a better runner by reading a magazine about running, or about new information within the world of running? Not really. You're going to be a better runner if you practice running, if you practice case writing. So there's lots and lots of content. CPA Canada provides really good flashcards. We provide a lot of really good information on our website. We provide really detailed webinars covering technical content. Technical is everywhere. The hardest part is case writing, right? People fail because of case writing. They don't fail because they don't have notes. Should I request a par for day one? I don't recommend it because in my opinion, they will not provide you with any additional information than what you don't already know. And my recommendations for you is to strictly go after um, our webinar, which is $75 for day one, and it will provide you, in my opinion, better content than the par would for a fraction of the cost. If you want more information, please reach out to me by email. I would be happy to assist. Lawrence, is there was a digital copy of the exam accessible in Secure Exam? The answer is no. Mike, is there a way to get access to past CFE and UFE exams? Yes, Akbar. They are so they are actually available publicly online for the previous CFE exams. Just simply Google them, and you should be able to find the reports. You should be able to find all the information that you're looking for. Mary, does the intensive course include unlimited sessions with the mentor, or just 7 sessions and the rest will be online? The one-on-one sessions are limited to 7 sessions and 7 mark cases. So you can either do 14 sessions or 14 mark cases, or 7 and 7, Mary. The rest will be through email and text support, which is unlimited. Mary, the $75 session is free of charge as part of the program, available now. Or if you're not a student, then it's available now at $75 to non-registered students. But if you are a student of Prep Formula, you don't have to pay the $75. Brian is asking, in your opinion, what sets Prep Formula apart from other prep courses? Um, that's a great question, Brian. So if you look at our website traffic, and if you look at the actual number of users that consistently use Prep Formula, we are about 3 times bigger than the first kind of competitor behind us. So what sets us apart is our constant dedication to people, our pass guarantee, that we provide a pass guarantee on every single one of our products, our live webinars, our one-on-one guidance. No program offers more value than what we do in Canada, which is why we are number one. Mary, so if I register now, I can access the $75 session right away, just to confirm? Yes, Mary, yes. You're welcome. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Yeah, I mean, Brian, look, there's people in this room that have taken our program and have passed, with us. So, Akbar, are the webinars generally scheduled for weekends, considering work? So all our webinars are scheduled for nights, either 8 p.m. Eastern or on weekends. So we don't have any daytime stuff because people generally work. Deep, do you know what the pass rate chances are for day one repeat writers? From my experience, Deep, it's 99%. It's extremely rare to fail day one twice. Back in Capstone 1, we were told that the presentation coursework will be part of our passing of day one. Does it at all count? And the answer is no. So the Capstone 1 presentation is strictly for you to pass Capstone 1. I think what you're talking about specifically is that it will help you indirectly, but there are no marks that are shared between Capstone 1 and your CFE day one attempt. For Anthony and Deep, I do understand. I do understand that you're feeling a little frustrated right now. But honestly, failing on level 1 is quite possibly the best thing that can happen. Quite, in my opinion, quite possibly the best thing that can happen to you. It is by far the closest to being a CPA than any other kind of fail. For Mary, you're welcome. Happy to help. Dukwan, I am interested in full package plus. Please reconfirm my membership will be valid until I become a CPA. Yes, that's correct. So full package plus option is, we do provide access until you're a CPA. Akbar, I'm on the West Coast, so 8 p.m. should be 5 p.m. for me, and would just be around work time. Does that mean I can never benefit from a live webinar from your products? No, because we do run weekend sessions as well. Or you're happy to, you're welcome to also tune in halfway. So my suggestion is to consider potentially tuning in at about 6 p.m. your time, Akbar, and then you'll be able to at least watch half the presentation. And most of our webinars are modular in nature. So in other words, like watching the first portion doesn't mean that you need to, you can start at basically at any time and then go back and finish the rest. Brian, your question is very specific here. So Brian is describing a scenario where a person failed on level 2, but then still passed overall. What exam will they have to write? So I think your question is very specific, and correct me if I'm wrong. What you're really asking is how can this person in the future practice public accounting? Because the only limitation at failing at level 2 FR means that you cannot practice public accounting. You can still obtain your CPA designation, but you cannot practice public accounting. So there is something currently being done to provide a test, a separate test that would provide for an ability for you to do so. So there's a separate test going forward that we will essentially use at a later date that will allow you to become a public practitioner. At this time, there is no test like this. So one route would, and to me, this is the most cruel option. And Brian, I apologize. I don't make these rules. One way is to forfeit your attempt and then to redo the CFE. Cruel, incredibly cruel. Or consider whether you want to stay in public accounting or not. Number 2, and number 3, wait for this new exam. So you don't really have a tremendous amount of options here. Dukwan, no problem. Happy to help. Fiona, can we only purchase the marking package? Fiona, we only offer the courses that are available on our website. We don't sell any of our resources separately. Great. So I think that's basically that. I'd like to thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Sundays. I do understand that you all have families, that you all have other commitments, and especially after getting results like this on a Friday, you probably don't want to spend your time with me, out of all people, on Sunday. So I first want to say thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day today. Across Canada, I know there's people from basically all over Canada watching this at the moment. So what I do want to say is don't give up the fight. Absolutely do not ever give up the fight. You will get this. I just spoke with a person. I'm just going to kind of tell you a quick story before we close. I spoke with a person that called me on Friday, and I have known that person since 2014. Okay, I can't say his name, but some people here might actually recognize his story because they were in his study group, and I saw that they were here. This person was unsuccessful on the old CA program, has failed several exams throughout, and consistently, I have worked with this person and picked them back up. And we had a one-on-one call at the end of every one of his failures, and he said to me, "I just want to give this up. Like, I don't want to ever do this again. I just want to stop." And you know what? He called me on Friday. He passed the CFE. He's done with the process. And the first thing that he told me was, this is all you, right? Like I would have given up the process a long, long time ago. And what really stood out to me is I I got pretty emotional because he said to me that I do appreciate everything that you're doing, and even when you have difficult days, and when things get very rough, just know that people on the other side of the fence really appreciate what you're doing. So never stop what you're doing. So the same advice that you give us, you don't stop offering this service. So that's sort of something um, that I heard from him, and I think it kind of really profoundly changed my way of looking at this as well. Prep formula in general was something that started off a basically it started off with me meeting people in a coffee shop and working with them on a one-to-one basis to now to become the largest program Canada wide. So clearly, this is a passion project, and I do also want to say thank you to all the people that work within our within our team. This is not just Mike; this is our entire team of people that make this all possible. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day and take care. Thank you. Bye bye.